Hey everyone, and welcome to the Gyrl podcast. I'm Kyra Mitchell-Lewis, and thank you all for joining. Hope everyone is doing well out there. Hope your week is going well. It is Thursday, so that means there's a new episode of the podcast right here for you today. And guess what? It's a career-focused podcast episode, which I definitely enjoy just bringing and chatting with you about things that happen in our careers, things that happen in the workplace, right? There's a lot. So it's really nice to be able to share just some nuggets from my experience, but also to hear from you out there listening, watching about some of your experiences also. So let's go ahead and dive in. I am going to clean my glasses because, as you all know, I can't see. So I definitely have to put these glasses on. I'll be squinting. That probably wouldn't be an appealing look to be on camera with. All right. So let's talk about last time. So the last time we talked about passive leadership. So let's do a quick recap. So I gave you 4 things to look out for when trying to identify if you're working with a passive leader or within a passive leadership environment. So here we go. Number 1 was passive leaders. They fail to provide feedback. Just as simple as that. They struggle, they don't give feedback, or they don't give feedback that is meaningful to you and what you need to do or next steps that you need to take. Number 2, passive leaders won't manage poor performance. They will often just not deal with someone who may be underperforming, which of course is going to cause issue with maybe those high performers on the team. So they generally don't do anything. Number 3, they fail to make decisions. As you heard me say in the last episode, decision-making is so key when you are a leader. Like, it is just most important. People are looking to you for guidance. People are looking to you for next steps. And if you can't provide that or you're unable, there's going to be an issue. And the last thing is passive leaders shy away from team issues. But really and truly, it's not just team issues. They really shy away from any type of issues in general. So may not just be inside of your team. It could be cross collaborating with other teams that they have a problem with like having sort of like friction. All right, so those are the 4 things that you should look for when you're trying to identify if you're in a passive led environment. So on the other side of that, guess what? There is active leadership, which is simply active leaders do the work of leadership. It's just that simple. So despite the simplicity of saying that active leaders simply just lead and they do the work of leadership, there are still, there are leadership positions where all over the place where there are people who really are half-hearted. They avoid conflict. They're just lazy sometimes. They may have aspired to the position because of what the position offered, but not really to do the work of leadership. And that's really important because there are a lot of people who just want the title, they want the compensation, they want all the frills that come with being a leader, but they don't actually continue the work of being a leader. So, like I said, active leaders lead. They actively look ahead to set goals. They identify opportunities and also challenges. They engage with the present to ensure standards of performance and that the needs of those that they lead and serve are being met. They review the past to track progress, and they learn, and they are constantly working to evolve their teams. All right, so with that being said, we're going to look at a couple of things today. So the first thing is we're going to look at identifying active leadership. So number 1 is they make informed decisions. They look at all the pieces, all the parts, and they are able to make a decision, not one that feels half-hearted, half thought through, lukewarm, but they make an informed decision. Number two, they follow through. They follow through on their commitments. They follow through on plans. They follow through on opportunities. They simply stand by their word. It's just like, for me, that's so important. Like, my word means everything, even if I put myself, even if I've said, like, I'm going to do 5 things and gosh knows I really only have time to do 3, but I say I committed to it, then I'm going to do those 5 things. And that's what like active leaders do in not only the workplace, but just in life. They follow through. All right, number 3 is they take care of people. So they take care of both the people whom they lead and people who are their clients, customers, etc. Like, they actually care about people doing well. And that's one of the things for me as a leader that's so important for me. It's that I take care of the people who I have been given charge over. It's really easy to, like I mentioned earlier, it's really easy to become the leader, to get the opportunity, but then to not do anything with it. And one of the most important things in leadership, it is making decisions and follow through, but it's also the people, and the people who you are charged with actually leading and caring. And I mentioned something earlier when I was talking about what active leaders do. One of the words that stands out is they serve, they lead and serve. Servant leadership. That is definitely a style that I subscribe to, and it is my leadership style, where the people have to come first, the people matter. You have to be sure that you are taking care of the needs, helping people on your team grow, helping to evolve them. Because if you build strong leaders on your team, that's going to be a force to be reckoned with. I mean, you should always be thinking in succession. Like, I'm always thinking about who on this team, if I won $1 million, right? Well, not a million, but if I won $5 million, or I, took another job, or I just couldn't fulfill my obligations to my role anymore and needed to step away, who could step into my shoes? So you have to lead with this feeling of who could be next. You can't lead. And when leaders don't lead that way, and they lead in fear of someone like outshining them or whatever, you want your people to shine. Like, for me, I want my people to have the opportunity to present and to be seen, and to be seen as leaders in the workplace. So, okay. Next, it is take care of their company and team goals. So you also have you have to be committed to ensuring that progress is happening inside of your team, and also that you are being seen as finding success. So if you set goals, right? If you set goals for your team, you should have goals. So we're just gonna back up for a second and just go into, all right, so with companies, obviously, just short little lesson here. Your company has like the big priorities for the business. And then underneath that, you usually have team goals. So say, for example, for those of you who don't know, I work in marketing. So, our company has big goals, then the marketing team has goals that layer up to those goals, but fall more inside of like what we do in marketing. And then underneath that, my team that I lead is the integrated marketing team. So within that, the integrated marketing team, we have goals. We have goals that ladder to the big marketing goals, but then there are going to be some goals that are just for the success of our team and growth of our team. There are going to be goals that are for the success and growth of the business. So it's really important. That's what active leaders do. They look at all those things and they really help to figure out how there can be impact, how they can help their team make impact. If I can say it any like simpler and in a cleaner, straight line way. All right, next up is they invest in personal development and they evolve. It's really important that as a leader that you are continuing to invest in your own development and your own growth. And that is really key because you can't continue to, how can you guide and lead others if you're not working on yourself as well? And the last thing is simply they act. They don't leave things undone, no matter what it is. It's conflict within the team, conflict, cross collaborative conflict, projects, etc. They just simply lead. All right, so now let's talk about how some organizations can, some things in an organization can work against active leadership. So we talked about all the great things about, what active leaders should look like. There are some things to recognize inside of your organization's culture that may work to sort of diffuse active leadership. So just giving you 4 ways, just some things to think about, to look for. These things discourage active leadership. So creating a personality-driven leadership culture. So some strong leaders use their strength to consolidate authority and control decision-making. This might look like our good friend micromanagement. This might look like undercutting of decisions or otherwise limiting the leadership of others, which we all know this isn't good. This demotivates or deactivates other leaders. So just say, for example, if you've got a manager, an executive level manager over you, or you are the executive level manager, and you've got, say, a president or a CEO, that is your manager or your manager's manager. And every time you make a decision or your manager makes a decision, that person comes in and is like, well, maybe we shouldn't do that thing. Maybe we should do it this way. And that undercuts like the confidence of the people working on the team, because it's like, wow, every time a manager makes a decision, the person above them is always like going against it. So I think that is really important to look out for, because that tends to attract the kind of people who prefer to work in an environment where their decision-making responsibilities is limited, but also it tends to push away naturally active and good leaders who recognize they can't thrive in that environment. All right, there's also number 2, withholding decision-making. Some leaders don't allow or encourage people to make decisions. They don't effectively delegate their power by providing a scope of authority of decision-making. So it often leaves people feeling like, huh? We really make this decision? I'm not really sure. Like, what am I supposed to? It's that what am I supposed to do moment all the time. All right, then there is then there's ambiguous decision-making. Some leaders let people make decisions, but are never really clear about what is over the line, right? Anyone's decision might be undercut for any reason. Eventually, most people either stop being active or the good leaders leave. So it's like, well, yeah, they just don't say like, what are the parameters of your decision making? So it's like, say if you had a budget, oh, well, when there are budget decisions at $100,000 or lower, you, person X, you have the decision to go ahead and and approve those things yourself, right? That's like knowing the parameters. But if they don't say it, and then sometimes they're like, oh yeah, you could have just went ahead and did that, but then you approve something that's like $100,000. And then, well, why didn't you bring that to me? It's like, which is it? Because you just said last week that I could. So I don't really know like what the parameters are. So just making sure that there are guardrails to help people to know. Then there's also withholding information. There are some leaders who divide and segment information. And I've personally lived through this in some organizations where, I've heard people say, yeah, like they don't ever give all the information. It's like bits and pieces. And then I don't really know what I'm supposed to do with it. And sometimes, not always, sometimes this is intentional, but sometimes it's just on accident because it's product of like poorly designed communication systems. And they're not just, they're not communicating, or there are sometimes where people give you the information and they think you're supposed to like be able to take that and run. And in some instances, there are times where people can do that. But for the most part, if you want people to be able to go and act and come back with, you will find yourself with like less mistakes potentially, less errors if you are just clear about what it is. And also, leaders out there who are listening, sometimes you may not have all the answers, and it's okay. You just need to be honest about, this is what I have right now. I'm still working to get the rest, but I wanted to give you all what I had right now. And then we will go. And then you figure out as a leader, these are the pieces that I think we can work on right now. And then what we'll do later as I come back, we'll fill in the gaps. All right. And then there is not matching skills with the responsibilities. One of the most common reasons I see for inactive leadership is a leader who just doesn't know how to do their job. They weren't selected based on ability. Sometimes they were just there for a long time. So they were like grandfathered into a role. And it's either like that or support isn't available to help them be successful, or they are uncomfortable requesting it because, it may expose the lack of knowledge. But I will tell you, that is one of the most hurtful, most harmful like situations for an organization, for a team to be in. Because when you have people who don't know how to lead, but they have been given a leadership role, they don't quite know they don't know how to lead in different areas, right? I mean, I think one of the important things is that, and this is probably like a lost art sometimes. I mean, I think, for myself, just using me as a personal example here, just because that's it's only what I know. It's myself and my stories, right? My experience. I was fortunate enough to come up in a time where I did a lot of different jobs in marketing. I learned a lot of different things, picked up a lot of skills, started to manage different groups and teams early, was able to learn about a lot of things. And I think in today's workforce, a lot of times people are just thrust into leadership roles where they are asked to manage people who they don't necessarily know anything about what they do. They haven't done it. And I think that that's important because, sometimes it can work. It can work sometimes if you have some basic knowledge, right? But a lot of times it doesn't, because people who work within teams, they want to feel like they can ask questions of the person who is their leader. And I think if you are someone who's leading a team and you don't know the things, that you should spend a lot of time learning from the people who do know. And then you should flex in other ways because, for a long time, I mean, I've always managed designers. I'm not a designer, but I am creative and I do understand like gaps that designers have. So I'm able to come in and fill those gaps for them and pardon me, I keep hitting the mic, and be a partner to them in that way. So you have to, if you do find yourself in a situation like that, just remember you want to be actively learning and engaging with the people who you are managing, who you may not have if you don't have, pardon me, an expertise in the area in which they work. Okay, so those were the four common, well, actually, it was more than four. It was three, four, it's five. Five ways that organizations can discourage active leadership. All right, and then the last thing we're going to look at is how to continue to cultivate an active leadership, an organization that focuses on active leadership. All right, so like I said, last time we talked about passive leadership, and I told you that I was going to give you some ways that an organization can help people transition or encourage active leadership. So one is selecting for active leaders and addressing inactive leaders. So very similar to what we talked about with the passive leadership, right? Because we said that passive leaders often tend to not address problems of performance. And it's the same with leadership. When you are seeking for leaders, you want to seek out those traits of people who you know will actively engage with their teams, with other teams. And if you have people who are in leadership roles who are not living up to the part, you have to do the same thing. You have to be willing to do the same exact thing on that you do for just a regular team member. You have to address those inactive leaders. All right, number two, creating clarity in roles, responsibilities, and decision-making authority. I can't tell you like how often I see people not knowing what their roles are, what they're supposed to do in decision-making authority. But even with that being said, that's pretty simple. Like many people don't act because they just don't know what is in like their sphere of like influence. So they act like employees waiting for the next steps to be dictated to them. And so if you can help create that clarity, then they'll be more likely, right, to make decisions, solve problems, bring solutions in real time versus waiting for someone to tell them the next steps. So I'll give you a really good example. At one of my jobs, I was working on the marketing team, and there was a role that was developed that felt very much like the marketing role that I was in, although it was supposedly not. But it caused a storm of confusion for every year that I was there, for every year that that role was in creation, and my role and other people who were in marketing. It was confusion because when you look at their job description, it had some pieces and parts of my job description. It also, when it came to goals, their goals were always centered around the things that I was working on or my other team members that were on our team. And it was just always confusion. And no one ever really did anything to solve it in the 5.5 years that I was there. It was like no real clarity. It was always this, well, we've got this thing that we're supposed to be. Now, I clearly knew the difference between their role and my role. So I just worked in my lane and did what I was supposed to do. But then there would always be the moments where they're out reporting on my work or the people on my team, others who were doing marketing efforts. So I'm just saying this is that if you are in a position of leadership, please work to help people have clarity in their roles and responsibilities. And also that will lead to greater decision-making authority. Because when you don't know what your role is and what things fall in your tool box, sandbox, whatever box, you won't make decisions. All right. The third thing is effective communication. So making sure that the quality of information and the method of how you communicate support and empower your people. I will say I've used a lot since the pandemic. I would probably say we went more to when the job I was at, we were working in Microsoft Teams. So there was a lot of chats, Microsoft Teams, and my new company, we use Slack. And I'll have to say, like in the beginning, because I was used to using something else, I was like, all these channels, but a lot of good work and a lot of communication, good communication and effective communication can happen in Slack, where people are able to like get feedback, provide feedback in real time and quickly. So I will definitely say just make sure you're looking at the method of um, the how you communicate and the where and the where and the how you communicate to your teams. All right. And lastly, it's cultivating a tolerance and a culture for mistakes. Mistakes aren't ideal, but they happen. And they should be used as like opportunities to help people grow. High performing organizations accept that mistakes will like happen and they have a process for addressing it. This also allows for things to be addressed quickly and early and not to like linger. It allows people to actually grow from it, mitigating repeated mistakes. And also it helps people to know that like it's okay because people beat themselves up about mistakes that they've made, and especially if the organization or the team leaders go quiet and they don't say anything. There's nothing worse than that. Like I like to address things really quickly, head on, and not wait for days, and not have people just sort of wondering like, oh, are they mad at me? That whole thing. All right. So I hope you found this episode as well as the episode prior on passive leadership to both be helpful. If you are a leader that's maybe been passive because of the environment, I hope you found some steps that you can take to help you transition into a more active leader. If you're a team member who wasn't sure of the type of leadership you've been experiencing, I hope you found some clarity in these two episodes. So let's just do a quick recap of what active leaders do. 1, they make informed decisions. 2, they follow through on plans, commitments, and opportunities. 3, they take care of their people, both the people they lead, the people they work with, and their customers. 4, they take care of their company or team goals. 5, they invest in personal development and they evolve. And 6, they act. Simply as that. All right. So, that was a lot. I hope you all enjoyed that. I really like talking about leadership and I like helping people identify, because I think if you're someone who aspires to be a leader, these tools can help you as well. Because for me, as I was growing up and learning leadership and creating my leadership style or building it, becoming the leader I am today, I mean, it was simply because a lot of the things that I experienced, I was like, I don't want to do that to anybody. Like, I don't want to do that to anybody because I know how it feels. So, taking your personal experiences as well and letting those guide you. Okay, so we are almost at the end of the year, and this is the time that many of us are taking part in the end of year review process, myself included. Can be a time where we are looking for, feedback on how to grow, how to be better, of course, increases in our salary, and maybe even a promotion. So in our next chat, we're going to talk about, in the next 2 chats, I should say, we're going to talk about 2 things relating to this this review process, right? And it could be the mid-year, end of year reviews. I think they're going to all be applicable to this. So 1, we're going to talk about the mistakes we make when we're trying to get the promotion. I'm going to give you some of my own personal mistakes because we have all, there's the time where you want to be promoted, you think you've earned it and it's ready for you. And then what happens when, second conversation will be, what happens when you don't get the promotion? How do you bounce back? And like I said, this will be based on my own personal experiences. So even before we get there, if anyone's listening or watching, shoot me an email at hello@glowupgirl if you have any experiences. I would love to hear from you and see how we can work those into the episodes, the help episodes as well to help our audience. All right. So before I go, again, I promise you the last thing, right? Remember, you can head over to glowupgirl.com and you can access previous podcast episodes, resources, and more. You can hear the career series, and then you can also hear the great interviews that I have with my amazing and inspiring guests. Also, this is towards the end of the year, and if you are thinking or considering a career switch, a career move, got a great quiz over called If You Are Afraid, Is It Time for You to Make a Career Change, even if you're afraid to take the leap. It's over at Glow Up Girl, and I designed this quiz to help you determine one of three things. One, I'm happy, I'm finding purpose. And you know what? Maybe it's time for me to elevate, especially after I just got a glowing end of the year review. Two, I'm okay. Not really sure. I don't know if I'm finding exact purpose or if I'm ready to elevate. I'm not really sure. I'm just trying to figure it out. Still working, figure out myself and what I like to do. And three, you're like, Kyra, nope, it's time to pivot. Nope, nope, nope. Purpose and joy does not live here. So after you take that quiz, you can also feel free to reach out to me for 15-minute chat. Hey, we can even make it 30, where I can discuss how I can help you. Because I feel like truly understanding where you want to head in your career starts with you understanding your strengths and what you bring to the table. And that will ultimately result in you creating a career that you love. All right. Well, it has been a great chat with you all today. I can't wait to come back and talk with you the next time. Like I said, you can listen to the career focused episodes or the regular interview episodes on glowupgirl.com or over at your favorite podcast platform, or if you're watching here on YouTube, here on a YouTube channel. So as always, thank you all for all the support, and I will see you next week. So until then, stay focused, fab, and glow up. Take care, everyone.